Today we're reviewing Stunt Car Racer. It came out in the US as Stunt Track Racer, and this is the Commodore release on cassette from the UK. I believe it at least came out in the US for the Amiga and IBM PC, but I don't think we got the Commodore 64 version, so this is really neat to have, and it works great on an NTSC Commodore system. Okay, well let's pop in the cassette and see what's in store for us. So, after a couple of minutes of this loading, it never has to load again, which is great. So here's the main menu, and you can select single player or multiplayer, and unfortunately multiplayer is taking turns. The Amiga one has LAN play, this one does not. And here we got the 4 divisions, and each division contains 2 tracks. You advance by beating enough races that you're allowed to move on. And there's a practice mode which comes in handy very much. You'll really want to be practicing these tracks over and over. But let me show you the 2nd division. Stepping Stones is a great track for demonstrating what makes this game so unique, and good for showing the ins and outs of the gameplay. When you start the race, you're hoisted onto this roller coaster-like track by a crane. Yeah, this isn't a real racing league. This is a sim of a fantasy racing league that doesn't exist, and not likely to exist either. What's interesting about this game is that the author, Geoff Crammond, he previously did one of the first sim racing games called Revs. It's an F1 sim. And then he did this game that has the same approach to realistic physics, but is this off-the-wall racing game where, you know, you're on these crazy tracks full of banks, turns, and jumps, and you're in this thing that kind of looks like a funny car almost. And really creative. There's no shortage of interesting ideas in the track design. Okay, so let's take a look at the strategy in this game. You'll notice I wanted to slow down a little bit for that jump. And that's because how you land is important. If you take turns and jumps really fast and you don't land well, you cause damage to your car. At the very top of the screen there's that crack that goes across it. So you want to be really careful. And here's a series of platforms you need to jump across, and you need to keep the speed about halfway. Otherwise you will overshoot and crash. So the game takes a lot of sim-like patience and restraint and all that good stuff. But it's like I said, it's a fantasy racing game. So it's a really interesting combination that you don't see all that often. Oh yeah, it also pays to have contact with the ground as much as possible, so you can really accelerate. You know, some jumps you want to go off really fast, and some of them you need to actually go over them kind of slowly so that you don't jump too high, because then you can't accelerate. So now's a good time to take a peek at the dashboard. You've got the number of laps, L2, number of boosts remaining, B35, and the number of meters you're ahead of the opponent, over 420. In the middle you've got the speedometer and the flag that lights up if you're in the first place. And lastly, it shows your lap time and whether or not you have the best lap. Now, I also want to talk about one of the game's major shortcomings. And here it is. Notice how far I'm ahead of the opponent, and watch me wreck. Keep watching that number in the lower left corner. Yeah, I was 400 meters in the lead, and now that lead is shot. If you've ever complained about rubber banding in racing games, there's a good reason to use that approach when designing them. You know, sometimes rubber banding works in your favor, like rank in a shoot 'em up. See, now he's over 600 meters ahead. You'll never catch up to that. Fortunately, if you have the best lap time, you get 1 point, and you get 2 points if you win the race, so you can get up to 3 points per race if you're good. And so, you know, the game is fairly forgiving on a per division basis. You know, it's just that each race isn't very forgiving. Here's a track called the Big Ramp. It's another one of those tracks that's really good for showing off Stunt Car Racer's gameplay. So first off, they put these little bumps in the road, so you can't go too fast in this part or you fly off. And then they do something really mean. On the next corner, you gotta really floor it to make the jump. And you'll see exactly what happens here. You have to get up to 170 km/h for the first series of jumps. And, you know, one thing that's so great about this game is you're going up the ramp to these jumps, watching the speedometer, hoping that you make the right speed. And as your car flies into the air and that engine revs up, you're kind of gripping the controller and holding your breath and hoping that you make it. It's great stuff. So here's the big ramp. You know how in most sim racers you want to go through the tangent of the turn. In this, not so. In this one, you have to go around the outside as much as possible to get that speed up to accelerate so you can make this. You gotta go 200 km/h to make this jump, or you're screwed. Okay, now let's get back to complaining a little bit more about the game. Watch this. It's gonna put me right on the precipice of this jump. I mean, there's absolutely nothing you can do in this situation. And I could argue that once you've already, you know, wrecked once, that you can't catch up anyway, so what's the difference? But I think they could have actually fixed this. I mean, this seems really, like a, oversight to me. So the tracks really need a sim-like mastery. You know, if you've played sim racers before, you know what to expect. You'll practice the same track over and over. You have to kind of enjoy wrecking and enjoy losing to really not get frustrated with this game. But once you get past that, it's extremely satisfying. It's a great game. It's one of the best things for the Commodore, in my opinion. You just won't get much out of it if you're expecting an arcade racer. And so the game's a bit unusual like that, you know. I don't know if it really appeals to sim racing fans and doesn't appeal to arcade game racing fans. I'm not sure what the target audience is for this game. Maybe the target audience are people who like really good racing games. That could be it. I've got to say, sometimes it feels like more of a flight sim than a car racing game. And one last track. Check out this guy. It's got that spike you have to clear in the middle. Look at that. Craziness. So these levels are kind of like miniature physics puzzles. And I think that's a really fun aspect to this game, is you're always thinking, what if I take the turn like this, or I jump like that? You kind of want to experiment. It's really fun. And again, you have to go around the outside of these turns to get enough speed to clear the ramp. And in this one, the curves themselves are pretty tricky. So am I going to make it? Oh man, I've lost the race. Or have I? And that's Stunt Car Racer, a game I can highly recommend if you can take the frustration, and if you like sim games, but want something a little bit different. And it's a game I can say hasn't really been outdone in the 25 years since its release, because there's nothing else quite like it. I mean, there's other games that have physics and they have unorthodox racing, but nothing combines them in quite the same way as Stunt Car Racer. So if you want something a little bit different, go ahead, pick up Stunt Car Racer. It's an easy import, and I find it really enjoyable and with lots of replayability. Now, one more thing before I go. One perk of collecting video games, and especially imports, are the catalogs that come with it. I mean, so this game was on the Kicks budget label over in the UK, and look at all these other games they put out on cassette. I mean, you can get Armalite, which is a really cool shoot 'em up, California Games, which is probably painful on cassette, Thunderblade, which is, you know, an alright port. I see Technocop in there. Coming soon is stuff like Moonwalker, and you know, Ninja Spirit is actually a really good port for the Commodore. Yeah, I love flipping through these old catalogs. Okay, thanks for joining me today to talk about Stunt Car Racer, and be sure to subscribe for more reviews. I'll see you next time.